My mom and my unemployed sister are trying to take me to court to claim 80% of my dad's inheritance. They nearly destroyed the reputation of his business, and now they're accusing me of stealing money. I'm 32 years old, and I just went through one of the hardest weeks of my entire life. My dad passed away suddenly from a heart attack, and ever since then it's been a battle to deal with both the grief of losing him and the family drama that came crashing down with it. I never imagined I would be facing something like this at my age, but life has a way of throwing you into the fire whether you're ready or not. My parents split up when I was 15, and it was not a clean break. My mom cheated on my dad with his best friend, and that tore our family apart. My younger sister Emily, who is 28 now, sided with mom during the divorce. I chose to live with dad, and from that point on the bond with my mom and sister never really healed. Dad was a successful businessman. He built his company from the ground up, starting with nothing more than a small electronics repair shop he set up in our garage. When I was a kid, I can still remember weekends spent sorting through resistors and circuit boards while he showed me how different schematics worked. Over time, that tiny garage shop grew into a whole chain of stores spread across the state. His journey always inspired me. He worked harder than anyone I knew, and he never stopped pushing toward his goals. After the divorce, he threw himself even deeper into his work. I think that was his way of coping with the pain of what my mom had done. I would sometimes wake up in the middle of the night and find him still at his desk at 2 in the morning, bent over spreadsheets or sketching out new business strategies. But no matter how many hours he poured into the company, he never forgot about me. We had breakfast together every morning without fail, and he showed up to every school play and sports game. He made sure I always knew I came first in his life. A few years later, he remarried a kind woman named Susan, came into his life, and she really made him happy. I was glad he found love again after all the heartbreak my mom had caused. Susan was warm and respectful. She never tried to replace my mom, but she was always there when I needed someone to talk to. She supported Dad in everything he did and became a real partner by his side. Together, they traveled, worked on charity projects, and genuinely enjoyed each other's company. It was good to see Dad smiling again after everything he had been through. My mom, on the other hand, did not handle the divorce well. Her relationship with my dad's former best friend fell apart pretty quickly, and from then on she struggled financially. She always carried bitterness about the divorce, saying Dad tricked her and kept her from getting what she deserved. But from everything I know, the settlement was more than fair. Dad even let her keep the house they had lived in, though eventually she had to sell it when money troubles piled up. Over the years, Mom bounced around trying different jobs, but she never managed to stick with anything for long. She had a way of painting herself as the victim, blaming her failures on Dad, and on the divorce she worked as a realtor for a while, then spent a couple years at a department store. She even tried starting her own catering service at one point. Every attempt began with excitement, but the moment things got difficult she would throw in the towel. My sister Emily ended up following the same path. She could never keep a steady job either, and relied on Mom for support. She dropped out of college after her freshman year, saying it just wasn't for her. Since then she's hopped from retail jobs to bartending gigs, never staying anywhere long. She always talked about big plans and chasing her dreams, but nothing ever made it past the talking stage. Yesterday was Dad's funeral, and it was one of the heaviest days of my life. A huge crowd came out to honor him. People from the business community packed the church. I recognized plenty of faces from company picnics and charity events, all there to say goodbye to a man they respected and admired. I gave the eulogy, sharing stories about Dad's kindness, his tireless work ethic, and the way he loved his family and his community. I talked about how he taught me to value hard work, to live honestly, and to help others whenever I could. I also mentioned how he saw business not just as a way to earn money, but as a chance to create jobs and strengthen the local economy. Speaking through the lump in my throat was difficult, but I wanted to honor him the best way I knew how. What surprised me was seeing Mom and Emily there. They had not spoken to Dad in years. I noticed they sat in the very back during the service. Part of me was glad they came to pay their respects, but another part of me could not ignore the uneasiness gnawing at me. Given how long they had shown no interest in his life, I couldn't help but question what their true intentions were. Why now, of all times? After the service, when people were moving around the hall offering condolences, I overheard Mom and Emily whispering in the corner. They had no idea I was close enough to catch their words, and what I heard lit a fire of anger inside me. Mom said this was finally their chance to get what they believed they were owed. Emily agreed, adding that they should push to take at least 80% of Dad's estate. Their plan was to contest the will, claiming Dad wasn't in his right mind when he signed it, and that Mom deserved more because of all the years she supposedly supported him while he built the business. I could hardly believe what I was hearing. We were still standing at my father's funeral, and they were already scheming about how to grab his money. It felt like a betrayal of everything Dad ever stood for. He had always taught me to value hard work and to make your own way in life. Listening to my mom and sister plotting to take something that was never theirs made my stomach turn. I wanted to call them out right then and there, but I forced myself to hold back. This was my father's funeral, and the last thing I wanted was a public scene. Instead, I decided to wait, gather proof, and keep a clear head. Emotions couldn't run the show if I wanted to protect what Dad left behind. Over the next few days, I kept a close eye on Mom and Emily. They acted unusually sweet towards Susan, my stepmother, which was completely out of character for them. I knew exactly what they were doing, trying to win her over so she might give in to their demands. I also noticed them snooping around Dad's office more than once. One time, I even caught Emily fiddling with the lock on his file cabinet. She quickly claimed she was just looking for old family photos, but it was obvious she was after paperwork that could help them challenge the will. Yesterday, we finally met with Dad's lawyer for the reading of the will. Susan sat quietly still in shock from losing her husband while Mom and Emily shifted in their chairs, exchanging nervous glances. I kept my face neutral, hiding the fact that I already knew about their plans. Just as I expected, Dad had left the bulk of his estate to Susan and me, with specific donations set aside for several charities he had faithfully supported throughout his life. Dad left the business to me since I had been working alongside him for the past several years and knew how everything operated. Susan inherited the house and a large portion of his savings. As for Mom and Emily, they were each given a symbolic sum of $10,000. The second the lawyer finished reading the will, Mom exploded. She started shouting about how unfair it was, claiming she had supported Dad for years while he built the company and that she deserved a much bigger share. She went on about all the sacrifices she supposedly made, carefully leaving out the part where she destroyed their marriage with an affair. Emily quickly jumped in like they had rehearsed it, accusing Dad of favoritism. She argued it wasn't right that I received so much just because I had lived with him after the divorce. She even claimed Dad punished her for choosing Mom's side back then. At that point, I couldn't hold my tongue anymore. I told them straight up that I had overheard their little scheme at the funeral. I accused them of plotting to contest the will and of trying to take advantage of the situation. I told them they should be ashamed of themselves for caring so much about money when we should still be mourning Dad. Mom tried to defend herself, saying I didn't understand how hard her life had been since the divorce. She went on about the struggles she faced trying to make ends meet, conveniently forgetting that she had blown through everything she received in the settlement. Emily turned on me, saying I had always sided with Dad and never cared about them, but I stood firm. I reminded them of how they had treated Dad over the years, how they cut him out of their lives and ignored his efforts to reconcile. I pointed out that Dad didn't owe them a dime after all that distance. The fact that he still left them something was proof of his generosity. The meeting ended in chaos. Mom and Emily stormed out of the office, threatening to get their own lawyers. Susan broke down in tears, unable to take the stress of it all. The attorney reassured us that the will was properly drafted and would be very difficult to overturn, but he warned that if Mom and Emily decided to drag it into court, it could turn into a nasty, drawn-out fight. Since that day, my phone hasn't stopped buzzing with messages from distant relatives. Some people in the family are standing by me, saying that Mom and Emily are just being greedy and that Dad had every right to distribute his estate however he saw fit. Others, though, think I am being too harsh and that I should at least try to see things from their side. A few even suggested I hand over part of my inheritance to Mom and Emily just to keep the peace in the family, but I am firm in my decision to honor Dad's will. He worked too hard for everything he built, and he alone had the right to decide what happened with it after he passed. In my eyes, Mom lost any claim to his assets the moment she cheated on him and walked away, and Emily chose her side during the divorce, barely keeping any relationship with Dad. Since then, for years, I've spent countless hours digging through Dad's financial documents and learning the ins and outs of his business. I want to be prepared if Mom and Emily actually take this to court. From everything I can see, Mom's claim that she supported Dad while he built the company is wildly exaggerated. The truth is the business really took off only after the divorce, when Dad buried himself in work. I have also spoken with several longtime employees who were more than willing to share their stories about him. They told me how he practically lived at the office, putting in long nights and weekends to make the business grow. One man named Jim told me something that stuck with me. When he was young, he had a criminal record and nobody wanted to hire him. Dad gave him a chance, starting him out as a janitor and later helping him work his way up to managing one of the stores. There are dozens of stories like that. Dad believed in giving people second chances. He supported his employees during hard times, and he always put people ahead of profits. Hearing stories like these only strengthens my determination to defend Dad's legacy. He didn't just build a company for himself, he built something that gave others a living and hope. I can't allow Mom and Emily's greed to threaten all of that. Still, a small part of me can't help but wonder, am I being too rigid? Maybe I should think about some kind of compromise just to keep what's left of the family from completely falling apart. I don't want to go against my dad's final wishes, but I also don't want to get dragged into a long, messy court battle that could cost a fortune and create even more family drama. It's a heavy situation, and I honestly don't know what the right move is. For now, my focus is on supporting Susan and making sure Dad's business keeps running without disruption. It's incredibly hard carrying the grief of losing him while also trying to protect his legacy from Mom and Emily's greed. I barely sleep these days replaying that fight with them over and over in my head. Part of me feels guilty for starting a family conflict so soon after Dad's death, but another part of me is furious that they even dared to take advantage of this moment. I worry a lot about Susan since the will was read. She's barely spoken, and I can see how badly the stress is wearing her down. I try to shield her from the worst of it, but it's not easy. She loved Dad deeply, and watching his memory get dragged into these financial battles is breaking her heart. The company has become another source of strain. Dad was its driving force, and losing him has shaken everyone. I'm doing everything I can to step into his shoes, but the responsibility feels overwhelming. The last thing I need right now is a lawsuit pulling me away from keeping the business alive. I've even caught myself considering whether I should offer Mom and Emily more than what they got just to make them back off, but deep down I know giving in might only encourage them to demand more, and worst of all, it would mean betraying Dad's direct wishes. Yesterday, while going through his office, I found an old family photo album. Inside were pictures of us before the divorce. One photo in particular hit me hard. It was from the grand opening of his very first store. Mom stood beside him smiling as he cut the ribbon. Emily and I were just little kids clapping our hands with joy, and I thought to myself, how did it all go so wrong? How did we go from that happy family to this nightmare? So now I'm left wondering, was I wrong for calling Mom and Emily out over their plans to take most of Dad's estate? Should I stand firm on protecting his will, or try to find some kind of compromise to keep what's left of the family together? I could really use an outside perspective on this. Personally, I think the smartest move here is to consult lawyers first and then decide on the next step. If Mom and Emily really have absolutely no chance of winning, then honestly, I'd probably just offer them a small payout. Not a share of the company, never that, but something minor just to make them back off. Like, if they were expecting something around $10 million each, I'd maybe offer $20,000 or $30,000 instead. Just enough to avoid endless stress, wasted time, and constant headaches. After all, nerves are worth more than money. If they actually do have some chance of winning, then maybe I'd consider offering them a bit more just to keep things from escalating. But I also completely understand the author's point of view, and probably the view of almost everyone reading this, that these people don't deserve a single cent. And ideally, if there was a 100% chance of winning in court, then yeah, it would be satisfying to let them lose, pay all the legal fees, and get hit with the karma they earned. That would have been a poetic ending. Still, if it were me, I'd at least try offering them something small, just to move on with life. But that's just my take. What about you guys? Let me know in the comments, and let's continue. It's been about a month since my last post, and unfortunately, I don't have good news. The situation with Mom and Emily has spiraled way beyond anything I could have imagined. At this point, I feel like I'm living inside some bizarre soap opera, except this is real life. And here, there's no dramatic background music warning me that everything is about to crash down. First of all, I want to thank everyone who commented on my first post. Your advice and support honestly kept me afloat during this insane time. To those who said I was right to stand my ground, thank you. You gave me the strength to keep pushing back against everything that's happened since. And to those who advised me to try finding a compromise, I appreciate your perspective too. I really did try, but I'll get to that part in a minute. So where should I start? I guess the lawsuit is the best place. Yes, you read that right. Mom and Emily actually went and hired a lawyer to contest my father's will. About a week after the reading, I got served with official court documents. Their attorney is notorious for being ruthless in inheritance disputes. The lawsuit claims my dad was mentally unfit when he wrote the will, and that Mom supposedly had a huge role in building the company during their marriage, so now they're demanding 80% of the estate. Exactly what I overheard them scheming about at the funeral. It's insane, but it's already turning into a serious problem. The legal fees are piling up fast. I had no choice but to hire my own attorney to fight back. Thankfully, my father's longtime friend and legal advisor, Tom, agreed to represent me. He knows the family history and the business inside and out, which helps a lot. Even with his friends and family discount, though, it's far from cheap. Still, Tom is one of the best. He's confident that my dad's will is airtight and that Mom and Emily don't stand a chance. But he also warned me these cases can drag on for months, sometimes even years. Just thinking about wasting that much time in court makes me feel drained. And the lawsuit isn't even the worst part. Mom and Emily have started a full-blown smear campaign against me and Susan. They're spreading nasty rumors all over town, telling people that Susan manipulated Dad into changing the will, that I'd been stealing from the company for years, and that we're planning to sell the business and fire everyone. Total lies, but that doesn't stop people from gossiping. I've had to spend countless hours on the phone calming down employees, reassuring them their jobs are safe. Even some of our long-term clients started calling, asking if they should keep doing business with us. This is hitting the company hard, and that's the last thing we need right now. Just last week, I overheard 2 new employees whispering in the break room, wondering if they should start looking for new jobs in case the rumors about mass layoffs are true. I had to call an emergency staff meeting just to shut that talk down. I hate that it's come to this, having to defend myself and my father's memory to people who worked side by side with him for years. The rumor about embezzlement is the dumbest one of all. My dad was always razor sharp when it came to the company's finances, and he drilled that discipline into me. The idea that I would steal from the business he built makes my blood boil. I spent the past week with our accountant, digging through years of financial records, just to be ready in case that accusation somehow makes its way into the lawsuit. Susan is taking this especially hard. She's not used to this level of backstabbing and manipulation. She's even started saying maybe we should just give in to Mom and Emily, just to make all of this stop. I've had to talk her out of it more than once, reminding her that this is exactly what they're hoping for. A few days ago, I walked in on Susan crying in my dad's old office. She was holding one of his sweaters, the one he always wore when he stayed up late working at home. She looked up at me with tears in her eyes and asked, "Do you think this is what he would have wanted? All this fighting." My heart broke. I've tried reaching out directly to Mom and Emily, hoping to talk sense into them, but they won't pick up the phone or answer messages. Everything has to go through their lawyer now. It's like they've completely erased the fact that we're family. Last week, though, I ran into Emily at the store. I thought maybe without Mom there, I could get through to her. But the moment she saw me, her face turned to stone. She accused me of turning the family against them and of stealing Dad's money. I tried to reason with her, remind her how she and Mom treated Dad after the divorce, but she just smirked and said, "You were always Daddy's golden boy." Then she walked away. Felt like talking to a stranger, not the sister I grew up with. The rest of the family is split. Some of my uncles and aunts are firmly on my side and disgusted with how Mom and Emily are behaving. Others think I'm being too harsh, that I should just give them more money for the sake of peace. My cousin Jack even yelled at me during a family dinner, saying I was the one tearing the family apart by being stubborn. I had to leave early just to avoid a scene. That dinner was an absolute nightmare. It was supposed to be a chance for the family to come together, remember Dad, and support each other. Instead, it turned into a battlefield. Aunt Sarah, Mom's sister, kept making cutting remarks about how some people forget where they came from once they get a little money. Uncle Pete, Dad's brother, fired back that some folks never really learned to appreciate hard work. And when Jack started yelling, all hell broke loose. I'm doing everything I can to keep the business afloat, no matter what. Dad built this company from scratch, and by God, I'm not going to let it fall apart. The employees have been amazing. Many of them have known me since I was a kid and share stories about Dad that keep me going. Jim, the same guy Dad gave a second chance to, the one I mentioned before, has been especially supportive. Not long ago, he came into my office with a stack of old photos. Pictures from company events over the years. Picnics, Christmas parties, store openings. Dad was in every single one, sleeves rolled up, working alongside everyone.
Ting for.
Those words hit me harder than I can even describe. But all of this comes at a cost. I barely sleep. I'm constantly worrying about what Mom and Emily might try next. I've lost weight, and my friends tell me I look terrible. I've had to cancel plans, skip meetings and events. Everything, just to deal with this nightmare. Feels like my whole life is on pause. The other day, I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror and barely recognized the person staring back. Dark circles under my eyes, a few days' worth of stubble, and a sense of complete exhaustion. For a moment, I wondered, is this even worth it? The hardest part is constantly second-guessing myself. Would it just be easier to give them more money and be done with it? But then I remember Dad's face when he told me he was leaving the business to me. I can't let him down, and I won't. I know there's a tough road ahead, but I also know I have to see this through. The lawyer says this whole thing could drag on for months, maybe even years. The rumors Mom and Emily are spreading won't disappear overnight. But I'm ready to fight. I've started documenting everything. Every nasty comment, every ignored call, every time I tried to reach out to them. Tom says all of this could be useful in court. I'm also gathering statements from longtime employees about Dad's work ethic and how the company grew after the divorce. If Mom tries to claim she helped build this business, we'll have enough evidence to prove otherwise. I've decided to take a more proactive approach to counter their smear campaign, too. I'm planning a company-wide meeting to address the rumors directly, be as open and honest as possible, and reassure everyone that their jobs are safe. I'm even reaching out personally to some of our biggest clients to maintain their trust. Susan and I are also working on a scholarship fund in Dad's name for local kids who want to study business or electronics. We thought it would be a good way to honor him and show the community that, like him, we're committed to giving back. It might even help offset some of the negativity Mom and Emily are spreading. We've already started talking to local schools about it, and the response has been incredible. The principal from my old high school even suggested awarding the first scholarship at this year's graduation ceremony. A small bright spot in all this darkness. As for Mom and Emily, I'm done trying to reason with them. If they want to communicate, they can do it through their lawyer. It hurts to think about what Dad would say seeing his family torn apart like this. I know this update isn't the happy ending many of you were hoping for. I wish I could say Mom and Emily came to their senses, that we settled things, and we were one happy family again. But that's not reality. Reality is messy, painful, and full of disappointment. I'm not giving up. For those who suggested I compromise in my first post, I really tried. I offered to create trusts for Mom and Emily with more than the $10,000 Dad left them, but still far less than the absurd 80% they demanded. They flat out refused. Now it's clear nothing short of taking the entire inheritance will satisfy them. Their counteroffer, if you could even call it that, was insulting. They would only drop the lawsuit if I handed over 70% of the estate and walked away from the company. When Tom told me this, I almost laughed. It was so ridiculous, so detached from reality. I seriously wondered what planet they're living on.